This podcast is a proud member of the Lamb Podcasting Network. Find the network at largeassmovieblogs.com.
Hello and welcome to episode 61 of the 1001 Movies podcast, based on the book 1001 Movies You Must See Before You Die. This week we'll be talking about 1978's Up in Smoke, directed by Lou Adler and featuring the comedy duo Cheech and Chong.
Hijo de la chingada. Is that a joint, man? That goddamn looks like a quarter pounder, man. Led Zeppelin.
Man, be careful with that shit, man.
Is it heavy stuff, man? Will it blow me away?
Better put your seatbelt on, man. I'll tell you that much.
Shit, I've been smoking since I was born, man. I could smoke anything, man. You know, like I smoked that Michoacan, man, Acapulco Gold, man. I even smoked that tight stick, you know?
Tight stick?
Yeah, you know, that stuff is tied to a stick, you know?
Tight stick.
Yeah, that didn't even do nothing to me, man. I could probably smoke this whole joint, man, and still walk away, man. Wouldn't be no problem at all, man.
Talk it up, man.
Do nothing.
It kind of grabs you by the boo-boo, don't it?
Hey, man.
What?
What? Oh. What's in this shit, man?
Mostly Maui Wowie, man.
Yeah?
But it's got some Labrador in it.
What's Labrador?
It's dog shit.
What?
Yeah, my dog ate my stash, man. I had it on the table and the little motherfucker ate it, man.
Yeah?
So I had to follow him around the little baggie for 3 days before I got it back.
A few of you under the age of 40 who have no idea who Cheech and Chong are, so let me enlighten you. Back in the late 1960s, when the threat of the draft was looming over America's male youth, Richard Cheech Marin moved from Los Angeles to Canada, where he worked as an actor and musician. One eventful night, Marin auditioned at a Vancouver club called Shanghai Junk, owned by none other than Canadian-born Chinese and Irish Tommy Chong. Fun fact, Chong mistook Marin for an Indian, while Marin mistook Chong for a Hell's Angel. Although Shanghai Junk was a family business, Chong was looking to make it a little, or I guess maybe a lot more hip, featuring his Improv City Works, which consisted of, among other things, a mime, topless dancers, and guitarists. City Works broke up in 1969, but Marin and Chong carried on their own improv duo as Cheech and Chong, frequently appearing at music venues where they performed rock music with a mix of comedy. A little bit more on that music later. Eventually, the two moved south to Los Angeles, where they continued their routine and eventually met producer of Ode Records, Lou Adler, and the rest is history. Up until Up in Smoke, Cheech and Chong made 5 albums, and at the time they were the only artists who combined their comedy with rock and roll. Highlights of these include Dave's Not Here, Basketball Jones, and my personal favorite, Sister Mary Elephant.
As you know, your regular teacher, Sister Rosetta Stone, is on a small vacation. However, she does send her love and these finger paintings and dust cloths she's making. I am your substitute teacher, Sister Mary Elephant. Attention class. Thank you.
By 1977, it was inevitable that they would make a movie. Lou Adler, whose sole film credit was as an executive producer for the Rocky Horror Picture Show, took up the job of directing. The supporting cast included Tom Skerritt as Cheech's cousin Strawberry, that was just a year before what may be his most popular role in Alien, and a then unknown Stacy Keach as Sergeant Stadenko, the foil of the two leads who manages to somehow always be 2 steps behind them. The film was completed in about a month, and Chong himself has described it as guerrilla filmmaking. The plot of Up in Smoke is cheap and quick. Stoners Pedro de Pacas, played by Marin, and Man Stoner, played by Chong, hit the road in search of drugs, quick cash, women, and eventually first place in a concert competition. Throughout their adventures, they're pursued by Sergeant Stadenko and his 3 bumbling underlings. The film climaxes with the 2 performing Earache My Eye, made popular 4 years earlier with Cheech and Chong's wedding album in front of a live audience. Up in Smoke was a hit that nobody involved could have expected. Even though the Christian Science Monitor called it a new entry in the worst movie ever made sweepstakes, audiences who were in on the joke flocked to see the movie, and within a month it grossed $20 million. And that was before its national release, when, combined with National Lampoon's Animal House, it earned 23% of the movie business's total profits. Audiences were obviously hungry for a new type of lowbrow comedy that the older, squarer generation couldn't appreciate. The movie's catchline, "Don't go straight to see this film," probably helped. Of course, Cheech and Chong's success didn't end there. Up in Smoke spawned 2 sequels, Cheech and Chong's next movie and Nice Dreams. The 2 made a handful of other films together, including Things Are Tough All Over in 1982 and Still Smokin' in 1983. In 1985, the duo broke up for reasons unknown, although the rumors are that it was highly contentious. Ironically, they reunited, in a way, as voiceovers in 1992's Fern Gully, The Last Rainforest. They worked together sporadically throughout the 90s, but things took a turn for the worse in 2003 when Chong was arrested for marketing and selling drug paraphernalia through his company, Chong's Glass. He was fined and sentenced to 9 months in prison, and his cellmate was allegedly Jordan Belfort, the subject of the film The Wolf of Wall Street. Cheech and Chong reunited nevertheless, however, and did a number of radio pieces and stage appearances. In 2014, they announced they were going to work on a new movie together, but the jury's still out on whether we'll ever get to see that. What did I think of Up in Smoke? When you think about famous comedy duos like Laurel and Hardy, Abbott and Costello, the Smothers Brothers, or Ralph Cramden and Ed Norton, there's almost always a straight man, the often smug and often uptight half of the pair who has to deal with his bumbling and silly cohort through their series of misadventures. But neither Cheech nor Chong is the straight man. They both smoke dope, they both have higher priorities than getting a job or starting a family, and, most importantly of all, they don't respect authority. Authority, in this film, is the straight man. Marin and Chong's stoner characters are an affront to the straight-laced entertainment their parents may have watched in the 1950s. Not only are they a part of counterculture, like the hippies, but they were likely the first comedians to make drug use not only funny, but actually kind of cool. What self-respecting stoner wouldn't embrace the opportunity to drive a van made entirely out of weed across the border? I saw Up in Smoke many, many years ago and remembered very little of it, probably because I couldn't relate to most of it. The drug humor may seem crude to many, but it was an inside joke to so many people in 1978. This was humor on so many people's level because they could relate more or less to these lovable stoners. Cheech and Chong's drug humor probably made many drug users feel less in the closet about their own recreational drug use. Nowadays, with marijuana becoming closer and closer to being universally legal, it's humor of a bygone era that just doesn't get stale. The same as W.C. Fields' drunken antics and humor are timeless after so many years. Drug humor aside, one of the film's crown jewels is Stacy Keach, who plays Sergeant Stadenko as a guy who was accidentally wound up in the wrong movie. He's arguably the plot's straight man as well as its villain, and there are moments with him that made me laugh out loud for 30 seconds straight. such as the scene where he berates one of his narcs for making shadow puppets with a projector, or when he's too busy admiring himself in a bathroom mirror to realize that someone just peed on his leg. Keach's performance, I dare say, is worthy of an Oscar nomination. Considering the film was made in a month by a first-time director, it's absolutely amazing that it looks as sharp as it does. It was made in a small budget of about $2 million, but by no means does it look like a B movie. Of course, Lou Adler didn't have to have the cinematic talent of Fellini to direct this, but the quality of his directing far surpasses other amateur directors of the same era. I imagine Up in Smoke has its detractors who probably think it doesn't deserve a place in 1001 movies you must see before you die, but I challenge them to pick out a film about marijuana culture in the 1970s that's as perfect as this one is. I recommend it to anyone with a sense of humor. That's all I have to say about Up in Smoke. Tune in next week when I talk about King of New York, the 1990 crime thriller directed by Abel Ferreira. In the meantime, you can email me any questions or comments at 1001moviespodcast@gmail.com. Follow me on Twitter at 1001moviespc, and look for the podcast's Facebook page. Until next time, happy viewing.
When troubled times begin to bother me, I take a toke and all my cares go up in smoke.